Okay. So today's topic is structure and function of skin. Let me tell you what is skin. What is the largest organ of our body? It is skin, right? It is the largest organ of our body. Imagine that you are wearing a big Superman suit, and that suit is able to protect you from all the viruses and all the harm, and it is able to regenerate and it is able to protect you, and you are wearing it right now. Yes, it is nothing but your skin. So that is like a suit which is protecting you and it is helping you, and it is all of free. So it is like a waterproof thing and it is perfectly fitting you. That is skin. It is the largest organ of our body. So now we need to know what is the structure of skin. What are the layers in the skin? So let us just go through the layers of the skin. Okay. So there are basically three different layers of skin. First one is the epidermis, and then the dermis, and then subcutaneous tissue, also called as a hypodermis. What is epidermis? Epi means the above. The topmost layer is called as the epidermis, and then the next one is called as the dermis, and the next is the subcutaneous tissue. So, what do you understand by epidermis? What does it mean? We all have different skin colors, right? Some will have darker shade of color, some have lighter shade of color. That color is because of the melanin pigment which is present in the epidermis. What produces this melanin? Yes, it is melanocyte. So melanocyte produces the pigment called melanin, because of which we are having different colors in our skin. Then we have the dermis, which is nothing but the connective tissue. So all these nerve endings, sweat glands, hair follicles, all will be present in the dermis tissue. Then the next is the hypodermis. Hypo. The word indicates it is the lowermost layer of the skin. So it is called hypodermis. And this consists of fat. Fat in the sense the adipose tissue. Let us look into all the different layers in detail. This is a diagram which you can draw in your exam, which is very basic and easy. Here you can see there are different parts like the hair follicles, the epidermis, dermis, nerves, everything. Okay, so what is this called? It is called as the integumentary system. What is integument? Integument in Latin means the outermost covering. Integument means the outermost covering. So the skin plus all these hairs, sweat glands, all these together are called as the integumentary system. So let's just learn about the integumentary system. Why we need to learn about skin? Because we know that skin cancer is a prominent cause of death, a prominent cause. There are different types of skin cancers, like the melanoma of the melanocyte, and we also have the basal cell carcinoma, which is a cancer of the basal cells. Now this is the layer of the epidermis. So I told there are three layers, right? Epidermis, and then dermis, and then hypodermis. So this epidermis is again divided into five layers. Here you can see in the slide, there are five layers, that is corneum, lucidium, granulosum, spinosum, and basal. So all these are the layers of the epidermis. Now how do you remember it? So let me tell you one mnemonic to remember these layers. CLGSB. So you can remember this by like, come, let's go and have some burger. Come for C, that is corneum. Let's is lucidium. Go is, get is granulosum. Some is spinosum. Burger, B for burger. So B for basal. So these are the layers of the epidermis. Now we need to learn about each and every layer in detail. What do you understand when you see this image? You can see there, right? You have different layers and all are having different sizes of cells. Like you see the first layer, it is having very thin cells, that is flattened cells. They are called as stratum corneum. Why it is called as corneum? Because it is having cornified cells. Cornified, that's why it is called as stratum corneum. What is cornified? Cornified means dead cells. All the dead cells are present there, like because when they get dead, again they shed and you will get a new layer. layer. That's why it is called stratum corneum. And you can see as you're going from top to the bottom, the layers are becoming broadened. Like the above cells are very flattened, and as you're going to the bottom, your cells are becoming broadened. That is the reason why it is divided from top to the bottom. Like the above layer, the corneum, it is because of the conified cells, and then you have the lucidum. Lucidum, the word lucy. Lucy means it is transparent, luciferous. That means it is transparent because of a protein which is present there. It has a transparent appearance that is called stratum lucidum. Now the question is where this lucidum layer will be present. It will not be present in all parts of your skin. Many parts of your skin only have four layers, that is corneum, granulosum, spinosum and basal, whereas this lucidum is present only in thick layers of the skin. What do you mean by thick? Thick means like the palm, layers of the palm and of the feet. They are very thick. If they ask you, where are the thickest layers of the skin? You need to say palm and your feet. You will have thick layers of your skin. And when you see your eyelids, it will be having thin layers of the skin. So eyelids are having thinnest layer of skin, and your palm will have thickest layer of the skin. And this layer is nothing but the lucidum. So stratum lucidum is found in thickest layers of your skin. Then comes the third layer, which is stratum granulosum. What do you understand by granulosum? The word granulosum means you're having some granules. What are those granules? They are nothing but keratin, keratinohyalin. Keratinohyalin granules are present in granulosum layer. Then comes the beneath layer, that is the stratum spinosum. Spinosum. Why scientists name them spinosum? Because that layer is having, when you see that layer, when you extract that layer and see it in the microscope, you can understand that you will see some spines under the microscope, the thin layers of spines. That's why the scientists name them as spinosum, because of the spiny appearance when you see it under the microscope. Then you have the last layer that is called as the stratum basal. So this basal, because it is at the base, you see this is the epidermis, and then you have dermis, and then you have the hypodermis. In the epidermis, the beneath layer is called as the basal because it is present at the base. Now, what do you see difference in all these layers? You can see right here. The all the layers are different. Again, all the layers are having so many cells in it. But the basal is having only one cell. That means it is a single celled layer. Like it will not have any stories. Like a building will have so many stories, like multi-storied building. But the last basal layer is having only one layer of cells. It will not have multiple cells. That is the difference you can see. And from top to bottom, the cells are becoming broadened. The top layer is thin, whereas the bottom layer is very broadened. Then coming to the description about each and every layer, as I've already told, stratum corneum. Corneum because of conified cells, that is nothing but conified means I told it is dead cells. So what these dead cells will do? They are nothing but keratinocyte. Dead cell means keratinocyte. Now let me ask you, where do you find this keratin? Then you will say, obviously, it is found in the hair as well as the nails. In all these layers, you will have keratin. So they are nothing but the dead cells. Now, when you see your nail itself, you can see that the bottom layer, this is nothing but the epidermis. And then above that, you will have the keratin. Okay. And then above that, you will have the layer which is nothing but the dead skin cells. Okay. And then you will have the stratum lucidum. What is lucidum? As I already told, lucy means translucent. Translucent means lucy. Because of the transparent proteins in that, that layer will look a bit transparent. That's why the name stratum lucidum. And as I told, it will give extra thickness. In the palm and in the soles, you will find the stratum lucidum. Then the next layer is stratum granulosum because of the granules. Which granules? Keratohyalin granules. Because of this, the name got stratum granulosum. Next, let us go to the other two layers, that is stratum spinosum and stratum basal. Spinosum means you will have Under the microscope, if you see, you will see spine-like layers. That's why it is called stratum spinosum. Polygonal cells, as I've shown in this image, right? You can see here in spinosum, you are having polygon shaped cells. That's why they are called polygonal cells. Now coming to the stratum basale, it is also called as stratum germinatum. Why it is called as stratum germinativum? Why? Because stratum germinativum means it will generate new cells. Okay, so what is happening here? The last layer, that is the basal layer, it is generating new cells. This last layer will generate new cells and it will push towards the top. Like all the new cells will push towards the top. This above top layer, as I told, which is the dead cells, it will die and this new cells will generate from the bottom and reach to the top. That is nothing but stratum basale. That is why it is also called as stratum germinativum, because it is germinating new cells. Okay. Now coming to what components are present in the stratum basale. It is doing mitosis. How do they generate new cells? Because of mitosis. It will do mitosis. So in this last layer, you can see keratinocytes, you can see melanocytes. These two will also be present in stratum basale. Okay. Now let me ask you, sorry. So now let me ask you, what is the surface area of the skin? Now, we all know that as I'm telling, they are present of dead skin cells, right? So these dead skin cells will eventually shed away. Like when you see a snake, when it sheds its skin, you can see that it is shedding its skin. But we also shed skin. We also shed skin, but we cannot notice it because it is very slow process. Like you cannot notice with your own eyes, naked eyes, that our skin is being shed and we are getting new cells again. Okay, so we are not able to see with our eyes. When we do like a time lapse video, if it is very slow, then you can see it. Otherwise, you cannot see it. So, if we think that our skin is shed, and if you if you spread the skin, it will be as much as a double blanket, like a double blanket. It will be around 22 square feet. So that huge our skin is. That is why it is called as the largest organ of our body. It is the largest sense organ. And what can you guess what might be the weight of our skin? Like if you entirely shed away your skin, what might be the weight of your skin? So it is around 9 kg. Our skin weighs around 9 kg and it is like a double blanket, the size of a double blanket, 22 square feet, which is very huge. So as I told you, the thickness of the skin depends upon the layer or the location where it is present. Like the palms are having the thickest, whereas the eyelids will have the thinnest layer of the skin. Now the thing is, what is this dermis layer, which is the second layer? First is epidermis, then the dermis, then the hypodermis. So what is this dermis layer? What does it do? It is in the between, right? So in this, you will have all the nerve cells, sweat glands, and all the hair follicle. Everything is present in the dermis layer. All the blood vessels, nerve cells, all the sweat glands, sebaceous glands, all these are present in this dermis layer. So, what is blood? Blood is nothing but a connective tissue. So, dermis is also called as a connective tissue because blood vessels are present in the dermis. Right. Now, as blood vessels are present in the dermis, we are calling it a connective tissue. Now, you might think, as epidermis is having 4 layers, no, as we have learned, first we have learned corneum, and then, as I told you, the mnemonic. Come, let's get some burger. Come is for corneum. Let's is lucidium. Get G for granulosum. Get some S for spinosum. Burger B for basal. So epidermis is having layers. What about dermis? Will it also have layers? Yes, it is having layers. There are 2 layers in dermis. What are those 2 layers? They are nothing but the, you can see here, it is a papillary layer and the reticular layer. So, what do you understand? What is the difference between these 2 layers? One is papillary, one more is reticular. What is the difference? Let me tell you that papillary means it is having very loose type of connective tissue. Whereas the reticular means it will have very tight kind of connective tissue. So, what do you understand by reticular? It is having tight kind of connective tissue, I've told. What gives it that strength for that reticular layer? You need strength for that reticular layer, right? What is giving that strength? So I can tell you that the collagen and the elastin fibers are giving it the strength and the elasticity. So collagen will give the strength and elasticity is because of the elastin fibers. Collagen gives strength, elastin gives elasticity. As simple as that. Now, there should be somebody to produce these collagen and elastin fibers, right? What is it? What will produce this collagen and elastin fibers? There are few cells called as fibroblast. So these fibroblasts, tiny, tiny cells called fibroblast, they will produce collagen and elastin. They will be acting like a tiler and they'll be producing those fibers, which are collagen and elastin. Now this collagen will give strength, elastin will give elasticity. Now you may see older people. Old people will have wrinkles. Why are those wrinkles? Why they are getting those wrinkles? Because the elastin fibers which are present in this dermis layer, they will become loose. So when your skin will lose the elasticity, what will happen? They will become loose and you will get wrinkles. Okay. So because of the loss of the elastin fibers in older people, they are having wrinkles. Then the next thing is the blood vessels. What is the use of these blood vessels? There are multiple uses of these blood vessels. First thing is it will provide nutrients and oxygen to the skin. Why? Because blood vessels obviously will have blood and blood has hemoglobin which will take the oxygen with it and blood will also take nutrients with it. Then comes the hair follicles and the glands. As I've told you, the middle layer, that is the dermis, is having hair follicles, sweat glands, all the things, sebaceous glands, and collagen, elastin, reticular, papillary layer, everything is present in this dermis layer. So all the other integumentary system parts are present in this dermis layer. Now, when you see hair, what do you remember? Hair means the goosebumps. Whenever you see goosebumps, when you see any horror movie or something, you might see goosebumps on your skin, right? Why do you get those goosebumps? Have you thought about it? Why do you get goosebumps? It is because when the hair is erect, then only it is called goosebump, right? Why does your hair get erect when you see anything very horror or surprising or anything very shocking? It is because our hair is connected to a muscle. Okay. When that muscle will contract, your hair, which is like this, will become like this. That means it will get erected. When you see anything surprising, that muscle will get contracted. What is that muscle? That muscle is nothing but erector pili. That muscle is called erector pili. That is responsible for the goosebumps which are produced. Now the thing is, now comes to the next layer, that is the hypodermis. It is the last layer of our skin that is called as hypodermis. Hypo means the last and the dermis is the beneath layer of the skin. Hypo means below, dermis means the dermis layer. The layer which is below the dermis is called as a hypodermis. Now, what is happening in hypodermis? You can see here, you are having normal cells and you are having increased subcutaneous fat cells. And then you will have cellulite. Okay. So in this fat cells, you will have adipose tissue which is getting accumulated. Because of this, it is called as subcutaneous fat. This adipose tissue, what is the function of this adipose tissue? First thing is adipose is important for maintaining the insulation. Whenever your skin, you will not get shock, right? Because of the insulation only, because of the adipose tissue only. And then adipose tissue, there is a one very, very important fact about it. What is this adipose tissue is doing is it will secrete a hormone called as leptin. Okay. Adipose tissue will secrete a hormone called leptin. Leptin is important for appetite. So what is happening when leptin is released? After eating dinner, we will feel full. Even though we are not eating enough, we will feel full. That is because of the leptin hormone, which is secreted by the adipose tissue, which is present in the subcutaneous fat. Now, as we all know, it is the deepest layer. And then, as I've told, it is giving insulation and energy storage. Why energy storage? Because it is like adipose tissue is like fat is like a fuel. Fat is a fuel. Okay. Fuel what? Because it will act like a storage for the cells. So, whenever you don't get food, when you're fasting or anything, it will use the food which is present in that adipose tissue. It is acting like a storehouse for the food or the energy. So it is a fuel. Okay. So you might have seen people who are having scar. Like if you get a small wound onto the skin, right? When you get a wound onto the skin, and then it will turn into a scar. Not all wounds will turn into scar. Only few wounds will turn into scar. Why? It is because, like, if you get a wound, small hurt or a cut or any burn, what happens if it is onto the toppest layer, that is the dermis, then it will get healed because again skin will regenerate and you will get back your skin. But what happens when that cut is very deep? When it goes into the dermis, what will happen? Then it will become a scar. If it is only in the epidermis, it will get healed. But if it goes deep into the dermis, it will become a scar. Why it is happening? It is because we know that scar. We know that our skin is having different fibers in different direction. If you think this is a skin, you will have fibers in different directions. But what is happening in a scar is all the cells will be only in parallel. All the fibers are only parallel to each other. So if there are different directions and only parallel cells, it will look different. Skin in the scar place will look different. That is why you can see if you have a scar, you can differentiate it. Like that is a scar because fibers will be only in parallel. Whereas in other places, fibers are in different direction. So that is the differentiating part of the scar. Okay, let me explain you this in a very simple example. Imagine that there is a window, okay, and that glass window is broken and rain is pouring. When the rain is pouring, the rain can come from the broken window into your house. So you need somebody to repair that broken window, no? So that repair person is nothing but scar here. And that broken window is nothing but the wound in the skin. Window is the skin, broken is nothing but the wound. And that rain is nothing but the foreign substances of the bacteria. So what happens when you get a wound? That bacteria can go inside your skin. No, the bacteria can enter into your skin. So you need to prevent that bacteria to enter in your skin. So what do? You need some tissue to hide that. So that is the scar tissue. So it is acting like a repairman. It will cover the wound so that the bacteria will not enter into your skin. So it is like if you want to repair something, if you want a quick solution, you will go to the scar tissue. Now, what is keloid? Keloid. What is keloid? Keloid is nothing but after, like for repairing what that scar will do, it will add so much of collagen. If the collagen is excess, like more collagen even after the wound is healed, if you get a wound, if it is healed, even then if you're adding collagen, what happens? You will get a keloid. Like you will get excess of the collagen and it will show up. That is called as keloid. That is a part of the skin as well. Now again coming to the functions of your skin. What functions does the skin do? What are the different functions of the skin? So the first important function, as we all know, it is the protection. So skin is protecting us from the UV radiation, from cold, heat, pain, touch, pressure. So let me tell you one thing. Melanocyte, as I've told, it will secrete a pigment called as melanin. But this Merkel cells, it is responsible for the sensory function. If somebody touches you, That is, you will feel that sensation because of the Merkel cells. That touching sensation is because of the Merkel cells. And then bacteria, viruses, all this will act as a barrier function. So nothing will enter into the skin. Okay. So now let us see what are the other functions of the skin. As I've told you, it is acting like a physical barrier. What does barrier mean? Barrier means it is preventing any UV radiation to enter into our body. So, UV radiation protection. As I've told, melanocyte will secrete a pigment called as melanin. That melanin is helping us to prevent from the UV radiations from the skin. Then the next is the thermoregulation. Here, thermo means heat. Regulation means regulating the heat. So sometimes we know that sweat glands. Okay. These sweat glands are responsible for the thermoregulation. It will secrete sweat. You may think that sweat is bad smell. Sweat will have a bad smell. But no, sweat has no smell. Sweat will not have any smell. But why does sweat will smell bad? It is because of the microbes, the bacteria which is present in the skin. When it comes in contact with the sweat, then it will convert it into a bad smell, because it will convert, that bacteria will be there, no, that will convert the sweat into acid. That acid is responsible for the bad smell. So it is not that sweat is smelling bad. Sweat will not have any smell. The bacteria which will react with the sweat and convert into acid, that will create bad smell. So next doubt might be like, if you see, you will get a very bad smell, like foul smell from the armpits, not from any other part. If there is a sweat here, it will not smell that bad as that of the armpit. Why? Because the sweat which is produced in the armpit, it will have more nutrient. So whenever there is more nutrient, you will have more bacteria. Where there is more bacteria, there will you will get more foul smell. So the armpit sweat will have more foul smell. I'm just telling this in the context of the sweat glands here, which is also a part of the integumentary system. So, these sweat glands are of two types. One is eccrine glands and the one more is apocrine sweat glands. So, all these will regulate the body temperature. How it is regulating the body temperature? So, whenever the sweat will evaporate, it will give a cooling sensation to the skin. So, in that way, it is regulating the body temperature. Now, the blood vessels, if they dilate, what will happen? Heat will go out. Whereas if they constrict, heat will stay inside the skin. That's why it will be like heat is conserved. Now, let us go to the next slide, which is sensation. Why do you feel sensation when somebody pinches you? Like, let me tell you one more example. Like, if you try to tickle yourself, you will not feel tickling. But somebody comes and tickles you, you will feel tickling sensation. Why is that happening? Because whenever you tickle yourself, your brain knows that you are tickling. Your brain knows that how much pressure, how much sensitivity you are applying to tickle yourself. So your brain knows it already. So you'll not feel the tickling sensation. But what if your friend comes out of a sudden and tickles you? You will feel that because your brain doesn't know. That's why it will increase the sensitivity. But when you tickle your own self, then the brain will decrease the sensitivity. That sensation is because of the Merkel cells which are present in the dermis layer. So sensitivity is because of the Merkel cells. Melanocyte or the color or the pigmentation is because of the melanocyte. So this should be crystal clear in your head. And then the nerve endings. So the same example goes with like when you bite your own tongue, then you will not feel the sensation or pain. But if you bite it like unexpectedly, unintentionally, sometimes suddenly, then you will feel the pain, right? That is because your brain doesn't know when you are doing it unwantedly or unexpectedly. But when you do it on purpose, when you bite your tongue on purpose, you will not feel the pain. The same thing goes here. Okay, the next thing is the metabolic functions. What is metabolism? Because of metabolism only, vitamin D synthesis is happening in the skin. So skin is responsible for the synthesis of vitamin D, which is very, very important for our bones, for our well-being and all. So we all think that sun will give us vitamin D, but it is not just the sun, but also the skin, which is giving you the vitamin D. If you have sun and if you don't have skin, you will not get vitamin D. You need sun's rays and then the skin to synthesize vitamin D by metabolism. Then coming to what is excretion. So this skin is also helpful in excretion. So how does it excrete waste? All the waste will be excreted through the sweat. So sweat is helpful for excreting the all the toxic materials which are present in the skin. Now coming to the immune defense, there are few cells which are responsible for the immune defense. Like you have the Langerhans cells. These are responsible for the immune defense. Immune defense means our body will protect ourselves from like the small villains. They are nothing but the microbes. So our body will not allow those microbes to enter because of the skin. If you don't have the skin, the microbes will enter into our body. So imagine that there is a small naughty virus or the bacteria which has crossed the dermis. It has crossed the macrophages and it has also crossed all the phagocytes and it has entered into the bottom beneath layer which is the hypodermis. What will happen? Will it cause an infection? No, it will not, because even the hypodermis will have cells called as the macrophages. So those big macrophages will engulf the small bacteria. So you will not get any kind of infection because of that. Now coming to one more function of the skin, which is the hydration and the barrier maintenance. How is it helpful in hydration? Hydration means providing somewhat like it will not make our skin dry because of the sebaceous glands, because of the sweat glands. Okay, you know some glands called as ceruminous glands. These ceruminous glands are responsible for the ear wax which is produced. So ceruminous glands are responsible for the ear wax which is produced. And it will produce sebum is produced by the sebaceous glands. It will keep our skin moisturized and it will be like a protective barrier. Like if you don't have sebum, it will not be moisturized. Your skin will become dry. If you don't have sweat, it will not be moisturized. Your skin again will become dry. So let us just see through all the things once again. I'll just condense it in a minute. Okay. So till now what we have learned is nothing but first we have three layers. One is epidermis, then the dermis, then the subcutaneous layer. Epidermis is having again five kinds of layers, that is stratum corneum, lucidium, granulosum, spinosum, and basal. We have learned this by a trick, that is come let's get some burgers. Come let's get some burgers. Come C for corneum, let's L for lucidum, get G for granulosum, some S for spinosum, burger B for basal. So these are the layers in the epidermis. Corneum, because it is having cornified cells which are nothing but the dead cells. Lucidum, because luci means transparent or translucent. It is present only in the legs and palm and sole. L for lucidum, L for legs. So only the thick layers of the skin, this lucidum will be present. Granulosum, because it will have keratohyalin granules. That's why it is called as granulosum. Then you will have the spinosum, which is the, and when you see under the microscope, you will see all the spine-like things. That is why it is called as spinosum. Then you will have the basal or the basal, which is the base layer of the skin. And then when you see different layers again, you will understand you will have different kind of cells called as melanocyte and then keratinocyte. Melanocyte will produce melanin, keratinocyte will produce keratin. And one more layer that is producing collagen and the elastin is nothing but the dermis layer. So this dermis layer is producing two kind of cells called as collagen and elastin. Collagen will give the strength, elastin will give the elasticity. This is what we have learned. And then we have learned in dermis also we are having two layers. Okay. First one is nothing but the papillary layer. Second one is called as the reticular layer. These are the two layers which are present in the dermis. Now, I have told that papillary layer means it is having loose connective tissue. Reticular means it is having dense connective tissue. And then dermis is the layer in which you will have blood vessels, nerve vessels, Merkel cells, keratinocytes, melanocytes. All these will be present in the dermis layer, blood vessels. Because of the blood vessel, it is called as the connective tissue. Then coming to the hypodermis. As I've told, hypodermis means the base layer, which is the beneath layer of the skin. It is the last layer, deepest layer of the skin. So this layer is having fat. Fat is nothing but the adipose tissue. What is the use of adipose? One is it will synthesize the hormone called leptin, which is important for appetite. Second, adipose is important for insulation. Okay. Now it is also maintaining the temperature. Now coming to the functions. We all know that skin is responsible for variety of functions like physical barrier, thermoregulation, sensation, metabolic function, immune defense, hydration, and barrier maintenance. I have given the examples like the goosebumps is because of the muscle called as erector pili. We get wrinkles because of the loss of the elastin, which is responsible for the elasticity. That is why you can see the wrinkles. I have also differentiated what is normal wound and what is a scar. Scar means when wound means if it is only in the upper layer, that is the dermis. But if the wound is very deep, if it is entering into the dermis also, normal wound is epidermis, whereas if it is entering into the dermis, that means it is a scar. So I have differentiated what is normal wound and what is the scar as well. Okay. So now you need to know what are these sweat. Why the sweat actually will not have any smell. The smell of the sweat is because of the microbes which are present in it. When they react with it, it will convert it into acid. Because of that, you will get smell. Armpits will have more smell. Why? Because the sweat which is present in the armpit will have more bacterial growth. More bacterial growth means more bad smell. That's it. And then when you go to sensation, sensation is always because of the cells called Merkel cells. Why you are getting sensation? Because of the nerve endings. Whenever there are nerve endings, you will get sensation. Then going to the metabolic functions. I told only with the sun you will not get vitamin D. You need sun plus skin to get vitamin D. That is the importance of skin here. It is responsible for the synthesis of vitamin D. And then immune cells, I have already told the Langerhans cells, macrophages, phagocytes, all these are responsible for your immune system. Hydration, this is because of the sebaceous glands, which is nothing but the sebum. Thank you. If you have any doubts, you can comment down. Yeah. Q Sai Stuti. It means a lot. Thank you. You can ask if you have any doubts. Please feel free to ask the doubts. I'll help you.